And welcome to the Township of Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for Wednesday, March 6th. It is 1:01 p.m. and we'll call ourselves to order. So first item on the agenda is our Canadian Anthem, but before we jump into that, I just wanted to make a remark. This past week, the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney, our 18th Prime Minister, passed away. He was a visionary leader who will be remembered for his leadership, historical policy initiatives, and his service to our country. Our thoughts are with his family and friends during this difficult time, and what I'd like to propose is that when we rise to sing our national anthem, we'll first pause for a moment of silence in honor of our Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and then we'll roll right into our Canadian anthem. So please stand. Thank you. Please grab a seat. Next, our land acknowledgement. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Next item is the adoption of our agenda. For today, the recommendation that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve the March 6, 2024 agenda. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Olmsted, Councillor Tabbert. Any recommended changes to the agenda as presented in front of you? And seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Next is adoption of minutes. First item is regular council minutes from February 21st. The recommendation is the Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve the February 21st, 2024 minutes. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. Is there any errors or omissions that have been noted in the minutes that were presented to you as part of the agenda package? Good. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. And I'll just pause for a second here. You'll notice two empty desks. We have the Deputy Mayor who's not available today, and as well as Councillor Bell. We still have quorum. The clerk has counseled me very clearly on that. Next, committees and boards. You'll see two sets of minutes enclosed in your package. The first one is from Muscrat Watershed's meeting on February 15th, and I'll open the floor to Councillor Tabbert or Councillor Olmsted if you have any comments on the minutes that you want to raise at this point in time.
Not at this time. It's the organization is going well, and we've got a lot of stuff on the horizon.
Perfect. Good. The next one is the Whitewater Seniors and Active Living Group, the minutes from their last meeting, which when I read that, I think it's January 9th. Councillor Trim and Councillor Moore are on that committee. Any comments from either one of you?
No, I think the minutes speak for themselves, Mr. Mayor, but I will have comments if that's more appropriate during the councillor's comments.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. We'll move on. Next is disclosures of interest. Any disclosures for anything on the agenda that you have approved for the day? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next is presentations. We have 2 presentations today, and they drew straws. And Pembroke and Area Airport Commission is going to be up first. So I will invite Mrs. Jennifer Lehman and Councillor, I think Chair of the Airport Commission, Alan Wren, to please come to the mic, turn it on, formally introduce yourselves, and then we welcome your presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Of course, Alan Wren. I'm Councillor of the Township of Laurentian Valley and also Chairman of the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission. And we want to thank Council, and we want to thank Michael Moore and Neil Nicholson for urging us to come and present to you today. I can tell you that it's now on the Commission's radar that this is going to be a yearly occurrence, and you guys are our guinea pigs. This is the first one of the owner municipalities that we're doing a presentation to, so hopefully it goes over well, and we're going to do that with all of the owners, and we will be requesting probably around the same time next year to come back again and give you an update on a yearly basis on the goings-on at the airport. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Jennifer Lehman, and she's going to do the bulk of the presentation. Jennifer does the marketing for the Airport Commission and is a way better speaker and presenter than I am. So, Jennifer.
Good afternoon. I handed out a little quiz to each of you. Every member of council got a question. So to give you an overview of what we've been doing at the airport, I'm just going to have you read out your question and take your best guess at the answer. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you. You're going to read out the question and then choose your best answer.
I'm going to answer.
Yes. We're going to see if you've been paying attention at the council meetings.
I pay attention all the time. Okay, my question is, which describes the first flight to land at the airport in 2023? And my options were A, an international air ambulance flight, or B, an Orange, Ontario air ambulance flight. My guess would be B.
Actually, it's A.
Oh.
So our very first flight of 2023 was a local resident who was in St. Lucia and fell ill and came back to the airport on an international air ambulance flight.
I remember that now.
Yes. So Orange is very busy with us. A lot of, local people. We back up 3 hospitals here. But also it's important to note that we do handle international air travel. For any resident in Renfrew County that falls ill outside of Canada, they come back to us. And we are a certified airport, which is a big plus in being able to handle those types of things. Those international flights happen about every year. I've been with the airport for about 10 years, and it's been almost every year that we have had one of those. Okay, Connie, you're up next.
My question is, this social media post had 38,782 people see the post, 10,262 people engage with the post, 178 people comment on the post. What was it about? A, forest fighting, B, search and rescue. I'm going to go with B, search and rescue.
So actually it's forest firefighting. So if you'll remember, in June of this year, Calabogie Griffith area had a pretty significant fire. And even though there are airports closer to them, the staff, Natalie and Steve here from our airport, were able to handle the needs of the Ministry of Natural Resources forest firefighting crew more easily. And with the fuel upgrades that you all made to the system as the owners, that also ensured that the base of operations happened out of the Pembroke and Area Airport to fight that fire. So I don't know who at your municipality is in charge of your social media posts and tracking those things, but I would challenge that you probably don't have a post that got that kind of coverage that we did. And we put it up there, told people what was going on, and we had calls in and messages. Can we bring food for the firefighters? Can we do all this kind of stuff? So huge asset here in our region. If the airport wasn't here, would forest firefighting, aviation-related still happen? Yes, but it would take longer. And as we all know, in a fire, time is of the essence. So being able to have that here is a true asset. Okay, Chris, I'm going to go over to you.
The president of which country visited our region this year with a specific interest in CNL? A, Mexico, or B, Jamaica? And I'm going to try to keep the streak going here and guess wrong. So I'm going to guess wrong on Mexico.
You are correct. You are wrong. So it was the president of Jamaica who did come up with a delegation, flew into Hamilton, Ontario, and then flew up to Pembroke with a whole bunch of people, and they went up to CNL for the day and then reversed their steps, and back to Jamaica he went. So interestingly, we have about 200 corporate flights a year. That would count as a corporate flight. What's good for us is they pay a landing fee. They often refuel whenever they land with us, so that's revenue for us in two ways. But it also allows us to be a connection to the world in a lot of places. So who would have thought that we could have a connection with Jamaica, but we just did. And I think a lot of it had to do with some nuclear work going on, although we didn't get to speak to the president or anyone at CNL about it, but it made a cool fact for us at the airport. Okay, Mr. Trim.
I'll try with it, Mike. How many liters of fuel did the airport sell to the Department of National Defence during a 6-week exercise in the fall of 2023? And my choices are 630,000 litres or 165,000 litres. And I know it was 630,000 litres.
You get a prize. You have got it right. So this was a huge project. Steve and Natalie, full props for being able to pull this off. So DND came to us and wanted to do an exercise. They would require a lot of fuel, turns out 630,000 litres of fuel. So to give you some idea, the remaining amount, 165 or 185 that was on there, that would be our fuel without this exercise in a year. So that gives you some idea how much extra that took. There were often times that trucks were delivering more than once a day. And so it was in the truck, into the tank, into the aircraft, back. Truck comes in, same process over and over. But what this allowed us to do was get to a higher level with DND in terms of things that we can provide for them at the airport. So we can facilitate a massive training exercise like this for 6 weeks. They are our biggest user today. They've been our biggest user for a long time, and we have slowly been adding a little bit more and a little bit more where we can help them. This was a big step for us to be able to do that. So as we strengthen even more of that relationship with DND, it allows us to maybe connect in a couple of other ways, maybe through different businesses, of which one is establishing at the airport now. DND retired from Garrison Petawawa, establishing a skydiving business at the airport with some outreach tentacles to do some other things. So it's just a way to show how we can, we usually say yes to everything, then figure out how to do it. And it worked this time, so we can't wait for the next one to come up. Mr. Mayor.
There were 200 corporate flights to the airport in 2023. Of those was a man who flew in from this province with a health-related invention, correct? Choices are Nova Scotia or B, Saskatchewan. And I grew up in Saskatchewan, so I'm going to pick Saskatchewan.
You are correct. So, very cool story. The gentleman that flew in from Saskatchewan in his own aircraft, he had invented an MRI machine that would work in space. So he was going up again to CNL. They were going to do some checking or something up there. He was only in for, I think, 2 days. It was a very short visit, and I wish I would have gotten to meet him and got him to sign something, because that's kind of a cool thing. But again, here's our connection to Saskatchewan or any other place in the world because of this facility and because of the resources that we have in this community, CNL, Garrison, Petawawa, whitewater rafting in your own backyard, all these things that bring people here, and we can be part of all of that with the airport. So now I'm going to ask Chris and Connie if they can read the question on the desk beside them for the councillor that's not able to be here today. Connie, I'll start with you.
How many times in 2023 did airport staff members return to the airport for a call-out or emergency aviation need? A, 10, B, 55. I'm going to stick with B, 55.
You got it. You redeemed yourself. Way to go. So call-outs happen after regular operating hours, which are 7:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock. Steve usually gets there at about 6 in the morning, so that's a little bit of extended hours. These are times that staff went back apart from those hours. So the majority of times that someone is going to, I would say almost 100% of the time, it's going to be for an emergency service situation. So 55 times last year, staff went back 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, midnight, 1 in the morning, either to assist with an air ambulance, Orange Air ambulance flight, with some kind of a Ministry of Natural Resources, a search and rescue, OPP, any of those types of emergencies. Normally, corporate traffic will not call for that unless it's fuel, but they're usually planned and returning on the same business day, so it doesn't apply to them as much. But in these types of situations, when you're dealing with people or property or things like fugitives, different types of things like that, again, time is of the essence. So they are able to call a 1-800 number. Somebody gets dispatched at the airport to go out and refuel or go out and let them in to the building or whatever has to be done there.
So under the immigration file, this spring there were 95,000 new residents to Renfrew County. When the Ministry of Natural Resources stocked how many local lakes? A, 75 or B, 57? And it's got to be 75.
It has got to be 57. All you guys need to go to airport school after this. So this was, I have to say, I borrowed this line from Killaloe Haggerty Richards. Every time that they got fish stock, they used to say, welcome all the new residents to Killaloe Haggerty Richards. So 95,000 fish went into 57 lakes and rivers all across Renfrew County this year. So this is something that the MNR does. They run that probably every year, every second year, Steve, am I right on that? Yes. And run that activity runs out of the airport as well. So they have, it's a whole, they've got this big truck that comes with all the fish in it, and they do it by aircraft, and I would love to go one day and see how that actually happens. But again, how many people do you know that come here or live here and are fishing, right? I mean, it's a huge activity in this area. So this all boosts everybody's tourism. So this is another way that we just connect again. Nobody would ever think about fishing in the airport, but here's a way that we make a connection. And a lot of the connections that we have with the airport are things that you don't often think about. So that's it for the quiz. Congratulations to those of you who were able to get some questions right, and for those not, we'll send information on a little training seminar to happen later on. I just wanted to mention a couple of more things of different ways that you can use the airport to your advantage here in Whitewater region. It is an asset, and there are lots of different ways that you can capitalize on that. One of the things we didn't mention is there's a Bearskin Airlines flight that leaves, comes into Pembroke every week. It is for local children across Ontario who are vision or hearing impaired. And they are picked up on Sunday afternoon, and they go down to Southern Ontario to a school where they learn to live with their impairment. So they get a lot of experience, and they get their high school, they graduate from high school, but they also learn how to live well with that impairment. That is a free service. It costs $0. So if there's anyone in your community who has vision or hearing impaired children and could benefit from that service, let us know. We will connect you to whoever you need to be connected to, or contact your Board of Education. It doesn't matter which Board of Education. Let industries know that suppliers can fly into the area. So again, sometimes maybe the local business here isn't going to use the airport, but they may have a supplier who would use the airport. They can often fly in here. We have done that, facilitated charter services for people who were selling their business, and there was someone, a delegation flew into Toronto. Somebody was interested up here. They have no idea how long of a drive it is from Toronto up to the Ottawa Valley. So there's charter services. We don't have a charter service, but we can facilitate a charter service. And coming from Toronto, it's easy because lots of charters are based there. It also lets you, so this is another thing, your airport ownership, you can show how to anyone here you're connected to the world and how it improves your quality of life. So I talked about forest firefighting, Orange Air ambulance, all those things. We don't think a lot about that, but we are a rural area. People can live and work here and have a quality of life that is consistent with the big cities because we can get you to Ottawa in 20 minutes. So we can provide that service. You can't get through Ottawa to the hospital in 20 minutes because of traffic in there. So we actually have a better service. So whenever you are anticipating talking to people who are moving into the region, there's lots of ways to say, yeah, we're rural, and guess what? We have all of these services available too. Promote the, I mentioned that, encourage tourism organizations to use the airport as a tool to promote charter opportunities. So you already have whitewater rafting that uses the airport. It's every year. We have charters that come in. Those charters come in from Toronto and other big cities. They spend the day out rafting or a weekend or different things like that. Let those businesses know that they can do that. So oftentimes you want to connect to those big cities. And you can do this by flying. You can do it for a day. You can charter up, raft, charter back. So you can have a day doing this stuff. That's a way that businesses can grow in this region as well and still connect to Toronto. And also, two final things. One is encouraging the County of Renfrew to be supportive of this facility. So Connie and I had a chat earlier, and she said, someone from McNabb Braeside, needs Orange Air Ambulance. Can they access it? Yes, they're getting it for free. And that's true. And you guys, all of the owners, should be commended that you have the foresight to be invested in this facility. That doesn't mean that you can't convince your other partners around the table to do the same, or even the county. This is a county-wide regional airport. We serve regional services everywhere. And the more people who are involved and at our table, the better that is. Second thing, we have meeting space. If anybody in the community needs a place to interview someone, wants to come to the airport, use the room to host a job fair to attract residents from Pembroke, Petawawa, Deep River, that area, we have a facility like that that's available. I think it's like $60 for half a day or something like that. So again, those are just different ways that you can use the airport. I think I have gone over my time, but we have questions. If any of you have questions, we have answers. You have questions.
Perfect. Open to the floor. Any members of council have questions? Councillor Moore.
You skipped over this. Could you comment on OPP using the facility and Sûreté to Quebec? They use it too sometimes?
Sure. So OPP does a lot of surveillance. They use it for fugitive search and captures. The biggest kind of story of that was the Basil Barutsky capture. So that was facilitated at the Pembroke area airport. And the gentleman who was in charge of that operation said that being able to operate so closely there probably saves at least one other life that day. So that's a huge factor for us. This is a challenging discussion because we deal a lot with emergency situations, and those aren't often things that we can talk about immediately when they happen because of people's privacy and different things that are involved with that. Sûreté de Quebec also, whenever there's a tourist issue that happens up in the Swisha or along our region where we share with the Ottawa River, oftentimes that operation will happen out of the Pembroke area airport because it's easier than Gatineau or some other place in Quebec. So there's a very good relationship there. A couple of years ago, there was a gentleman who was snowmobiling in Quebec. Now, here's an interesting part. You don't have air ambulance in Quebec the way you have it here. So when you go snowmobiling, you can buy an insurance that allows you to get to a certain point, that if there is an emergency, you get to that point and you can be evacuated. Here, that is not the case. So in Quebec, Ontario snowmobiler, snowmobiling in Quebec, ends up in a major accident, can't move, isn't in the place that he needs to be evacuated. People around him, this was what, 3 years ago, Steve? Maybe COVID, after COVID? And anyways, people get him to a place, they call Quebec to come and get him out, but it wasn't air ambulance because he's not an Ontario resident, he's not a Quebec resident. So it was the Sûreté de Quebec. So they come to the airport with a helicopter and the little thing that you put the people in when you lower the basket down or whatever, take everything out of their helicopter because there's a weight and balance issue with every aircraft. You can only have so much weight to go so far plus your fuel. The aircraft goes into Quebec, lowers down the basket, they put the guy in the basket, pick him up, bring him to the Pembroke airport. This is where Orange Air Ambulance is waiting to take the guy and take him to Ottawa. So all of that happened And that's a cross-border situation. You know, the Pontiac could be invested in us as well for that same reason. I don't know if that's where you were going with that, but.
That's what I was going for, thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody else sitting at the table could hear that story.
Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Tabbert.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, are there any businesses that operate out of there, like parachute training or tandem jumping or learning to fly or pilot an airplane or anything like that?
So we do have several businesses that operate at the airport, and that includes businesses on the airport's property, and also we have neighboring property that used to be DND, and there are some businesses there. So there's an aircraft maintenance engineer that operates on the DND, formerly DND property. We just recently welcomed Petawawa Skydive, Airborne Petawawa. They're going to be starting operations hopefully this year. So they do skydiving, tandem jumping. There is also a special training that they have to be able to train other people that isn't at the level that it is anywhere else in Canada. I think she said there was one other place in the whole country that offered that type of service. So they're going to be there for military and for civilian assistance. Who else do we have that's available out there? I'm trying to think who's there seasonally, who's...
Greg Ward rents some storage buildings to do his own business.
So across the airfield proper from us, there's a community road, and then there's more property that the airport owns. There's a gentleman there that rents property from us and runs his, what is it, restoring?
He restores vehicles.
Yeah, restores vehicles out of there. A lot of the businesses that we have that do work at the airport will come in on a contract because flight stuff is usually short timed. So if somebody needs to come in and do something related to that and then leave. So we do a lot of that. The airport's business also includes things like de-icing an aircraft. So didn't have that problem much this year, but oftentimes whenever it's snowy, rainy, all of that, and the planes freeze up, Steve and the staff can go and de-ice all of that. We also are probably going to have some kind of line painting business starting up because we had to buy a line painter because we couldn't get anyone to come and paint our lines at the runway. So now we own that. So all sorts of things like that. A lot of the other businesses use us in terms of, like, for example, Giant Tiger, you know, their aircraft flies in here corporately. They do their business at the store, but they use us that way.
And Councillor Trim.
Yes, I really do appreciate this presentation, and you've done a really good job, I must say, because annually, I and all the other councillors have to make a decision with respect to budget. And why are we continuing to support the Pembroke area airport with our taxpayer dollars? And it's good to be reminded why we're doing it. And anybody watching today on our YouTube channel will also get that reminder. And yes, I feel personally that we should be supporting the Pembroke area airport. And again, thank you very much for your presentation.
You're very welcome. And just one more thing that I credit all of you owners for this reason. We spent about 2 years lobbying and talking with different provincial and federal levels of government and departments. And one of the things that came up time and time again when we talked specifically in economic development was, you guys actually aren't in the red. Nobody could believe that. So I don't know if there is an airport that operates in the black, but we have, and we do. And that is highly unusual for an airport that receives zero government funds. So all of the big airports that get lots of money, they don't operate in the black. They are a drain on their community tax base. We are not. The contributions that all of the municipal owners make is 15% of what our budget is, and we make the 85% ourselves. That is a testament to all of you, because you saw an opportunity to continue with this facility, and here it is all this time later. 1995 was when the last federal money came into the airport, and since then it has been viable. 400 airports are closed because of that decision, and your airport is not. So to everyone who was involved with that and who sat in these chambers previously, that's awesome for all of you.
Perfect. Yeah, please.
So just one thing on that I'd like to make perfectly clear, that we are operating this airport on your behalf. This is not my airport or Jennifer's airport. This airport belongs to you. You own 8% of this airport. So we're operating it on your behalf. I know we've offered in the past to give people a tour of the airport inside the fence, okay? And some members of this council did come. We would offer it again. Please come and see what you own and how this facility operates. I think it'll really open your eyes to what's actually there, because a lot of people don't get on that side of the fence. We'll take you for a drive right down the middle of the runway. Okay, and you can see what it is that you actually own, okay? And like I say, we're operating this on your behalf. Okay?
Sure, Councillor Trim.
Yes. I was one that took advantage of that tour, and I would like to go again, and if you could arrange a warmer day.
Yeah. We'll work on that.
Good. If there's no other questions, I have two comments. So the first one is just, and we had a bit of a discussion before, the minutes of your meeting, if it's possible for those to be distributed, and then our clerk will ensure that they're put on our agenda. That way Councillor Moore would have an opening to be able to bring up anything of importance that he wanted to highlight as a result of those minutes. So if that's something administratively we can work out, it'll keep the airport in the forefront of our discussions.
Just on that note, another one of our objectives starting this year is going to be a quarterly newsletter update that will be sent to the each CEO of the owner municipalities, as well as all of the members of the commission. So we're going to keep you up to date and informed more starting this year.
That's perfect. A second request is this: we received, I think the clerk received it through the clerk network. Airport Management Council of Ontario did a note that went up, I think, to the province. And I'm just curious, did the Airport Commission Board, did they endorse that? Could you make a recommendation for a resolution that possibly we as a council could then pass up to the province in support?
So, just so that I'm sure the one you're talking about, it was the one where municipalities were looking at divesting from airports and moving them into plans of subdivision because of the cost. And is that the one that you're? The press release? So absolutely, we can send a request that municipalities endorse that and send it to the province, because that is huge. Airports all over Ontario, all over Canada are having a tough time right now, and the federal and provincial governments, it seems to be falling on deaf ears that these airports are very, very important, especially to rural Ontario, rural Canada. We need to keep these airports up and going, and if they start divesting and getting out of them and turning them into subdivisions, well, once they're gone, and we all know that.
I can add to that.
Okay.
So our airport actually is part of the Airport Management Council of Ontario organization, and we are also on the governance committee for that organization. So they are actively creating and trying to structure an awareness campaign that supports. We're not the only airport applying for money and not being able to get any. So just so you know, this or association is also working on behalf of the airport to help with all of that.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that we can also support it through the advocacy avenues that we have. So those two ways might be a way for us to also wade into the fight a little bit. Good. Is there any other comments or questions? Well, thank you so much for both, not just the two of you, but your whole team that came out today for the presentations. I love the presentation. Your format was great. Questions, and it creates an opportunity for people to really think about what's going on. Yes. But thank you so much. Look forward to it, and looking forward to more coming from the airport. So thank you.
Thanks very much for all your support.
Excellent. So don't feel, yes, please go and get on with the rest of your day. Next on our presentation list is a presentation about the Freshet, which we're going to hear what that is in a moment, but I'll have Mr. Steve Osipenko. Just make sure I didn't butcher that.
Correct, Osipenko.
Osipenko is going to give us a short presentation on the Freshet.
Okay.
Your floor is yours.
Just to tie up them, we deal with the airport a lot with work. My name's Steve Osipenko. Some of you I know, some of you may not. I am a paramedic commander with the paramedic service. My side job is emergency management as well. I took a liking to it about 15 years ago. It's one of the reasons I met Lane through the years. People talk about Freshet. They talk about Freshet and they equate it to flooding. Freshet is a process. It has nothing to do with flooding. In Freshet, sometimes there is flooding. So let's be clear up front. Freshet is the process when the snow melts, the water runs off and goes to its tributaries and out to the ocean. That's Freshet. Sometimes that is faster, more inundation than others, but Freshet is not flooding, so please keep those separate. One thing that I did pass on to Carmen, I gave this presentation in a PDF format for you guys all to read. This is what the Ottawa River Secretariat put out to our group, the CEMCs in the county. You can get a copy of this after the read through, but I'll reference it a couple times in here with some pictures and stuff. So, information on the Freshet. We are there. We're pretty much to Freshet season. The meetings have started. What we do during Freshet, you can flip to the next slide there. So just reference that presentation. Yep, we're good. Yep. The Ottawa River Secretariat, the Madawaska River, and the Bonnechere River are our main tributaries that are controlled in Renfrew County. During that meeting, we have the power producers and the dam operators from all of those rivers that come together for all the municipalities together. You guys are only really concerned with the Ottawa River, so that's hence the presentation. Yeah, that's fine there. So the Ottawa River Secretariat is the one that most affects you. You don't have any of the other rivers. You do have the Muscrat, which is uncontrolled. You have the Indian River partially, I believe. It's uncontrolled. So there's nothing really you can do about it except let it melt, let it wash through. But all of those rivers go to the Ottawa River, which creates issues for your municipality as one of the highest for being affected. The Ottawa River Secretariat, they are a control board. They do not actually man the dams. They do not make the decisions per se of what happens. They deal with the effects, collect the data, get the data out to the shareholders, so to speak, is us. We take that information, as the county, we went in a partnership with Ottawa River Secretariat. The information is designated to go to MNRF. Everybody has to understand what Order in Council is. So in every disaster in Ontario, they're all ticked to a specific ministry who's responsible. MNRF is responsible for flooding, but they're not going to come and do anything for us as residents or councils. Their job is to take the information from the Ottawa River Secretariat and make sure you have it to make decisions as a council on how to protect your residents, reduce the outcomes, prepare, prevent. And you can go to the next slide there. So some of these pictures are, I just took some snippets for you to see. They are very detailed in their information. They only have the ability to predict certain length in time ahead. It's just like the weather. If I told you the weather in a month, it means nothing. The weather in 2 days from now, fairly accurate. That's what they work on. So the big key that you need to remember is Freshet officially starts with their publication that goes out. You go to the next one. This bulletin will go out when it's technically in Freshet. Right now, everything's melting. Perfect. When we start to see the effects in the Ottawa River Basin, that the ice is breaking up, the tributaries are picking up, the flows are picking up. A side note, Cheneau Dam, opened yesterday afternoon, evening. It's now open. So that means that there's more water going through than the power station can actually pass. So now they're spilling water. So that's, you know, a good gauge that Freshet is underway. Ice is breaking up. Normally this isn't a March 5th timing. It's quite early. Early Freshet is very good. I'm not going to stand up here and profess to you that we're not going to have a flood, or we are. It's spring. If we get dumps of snow in March, which is very, you know, very common, heavy, wet, dense snow, it changes the trajectory. But when you see this note come out, that means we're actually in Freshet. You can go to the next one. Okay, so I encourage you to go to their website. You can flip to the next one. They have data on snow. They have data on the dam levels, the passing, the cubic meters per second is the amount of water. Your municipality has a very unique characteristic. You're affected by the flow rate more than anything else. I live in Horton. We're affected by volume. It restricts at one spot, the level goes up, it can't pass enough water. You guys are very specific to different areas based on flow rate. It's a different problem. It's how fast the water's coming that it backs up. It's not the amount of water. You could take 3 times the amount of water over a longer period of time, but when it comes too fast, all your little restrictions, all your islands, all those holdbacks create problems for your residents. Your job during Freshet, the CEMC is the direct conduit to the Freshet meeting. In 2017, I don't know how many of you were here during 2017, it was the first major flood that I personally went through in this role. I'm going to say it was a disaster in communication-wise. It wouldn't have changed the outcome. Flooding is flooding. Could we be more efficient? Could we be more precise? Could we prepare you a little bit earlier? Sure, maybe. We learned a lot from it. We revamped the entire Freshet process. We cut off all people that are not, the call is a functional call. It's not a decision call. We don't make choices. We don't say, hold the water, let the water, it's got nothing to do with that. It's an information conduit to you as council and staff. The CEMC is your conduit. So whoever the CMC is on the call, whether it's Carmen, whether it's Lane, that's the person in the call. It's their job to bring the information back here, share with you. There's no secrets. There's nothing blacked out. There's nothing vetted. If you have a problem, a concern, a question of, hey, what's going to happen next week, send it with them. They'll ask the question. Manon from the Ottawa River will best answer she can, but it's like the weather. 6 days out is about as far as accurate. Right now, early spring, low snow volume, rivers starting to open, they're passing water, March 6th, fantastic. 3 factors create flooding. Snow volume, when we get rain, and how fast the temperature changes. Those are the 3 key things that you have to remember. All 3 of them affect flooding. Yes, we have low snow volume, perfect. It's melting early, which means any maple syrup season is fantastic for flooding. Cold nights, warm days, trickles out, freezes up, slows down. Trickles out, freezes up. That's ideal, and starting now, fantastic. But we get 3-4 major storms in a row of snow, piles up 3.5 feet of snow, and then it flips to warm and we get rain on it. We've all witnessed what can happen. So I encourage you, go to the next slide. Go to the website. I encourage you to be in the know. You guys are the decision makers. We will give you the information as it comes. Whenever there's a red flag that goes up, Carmen and Lane will be the first to know. They will relay to you. If you have stuff, send it to them. That's the in and out. If you want to look at OPG, I've put it on there as well. It's the next couple slides. You can go to them as well. They have the same data, but the Ottawa River Secretariat really focuses on the Ottawa River, your area. They have more testing centers. You guys have been fantastic trying to get flow meters and gauges. That increases your intel. It tells you earlier what's happening, what measures you need to take. Okay? Yeah, as of right now, things look good. Go to the roles and responsibilities page. A couple more slides. Yeah. So, we're trying to ensure the security of that call. So when we put out the minutes, we don't share the time and place or the meeting link so that it doesn't get out to the public, because we don't need all those public interest groups, all the residents, you know, everybody having, that's not the purpose of the call. The purpose of the call is information sharing down, divest it out to you, bring problems up, report in. That's the whole purpose. CMC is the link, I discussed that. We recommend that you use the MNRF bulletins in verbatim. Don't doctor them, don't change them. Take that picture or take that verbiage in that paragraph, paste it on your website. Taking their bulletin, putting it right to your website is perfect, because then all 18 all have the same thing. There's no he said, she said. Everything's the same. Part of this is in increasing the profile of the CEMC while preparing for other hazards. Flood is one hazard. There's many in emergency management. If we have a forest fire situation, if we have drought, if we have ice storm, heaven forbid, anything else, this is the same conduit. Everything works the same. Everything comes to your CEMC, they bring it up, we'll take the information, send it back, bring it to you. Okay? Okay, next slide. How can we improve this? The communication lines are quite good. Should be the next slide there. All good.
Do you want to add this?
Nope. Yeah, the next one. Keep going. There we go. Okay. Our communication lines are very clear, very delineated. I think they're working well. I'd like to hear back if there's stuff that you would like to know, things you'd like to hear about. If there's anything specific, bring it with Carmen. She'll ask. We're glad to share everything, okay? Are you guys ready? Prepare for flooding. That we always say, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. It's true. If you get caught not prepared, everybody collectively looks bad. So you guys are fantastic at doing your flooding. You guys were very successful last year in the efficiency of helping your residents. Some places don't do as well. Everybody can learn and improve. You should never accept where you're at and think that's good enough. Always try and improve your efficiency. What's the outlook? I don't think there's going to be flooding, but like I said, it's not up to me, and it's not up to any of you guys. But we will deal with whatever comes downhill. County of Wren for initiatives, specifically. We put in for the flood grant. We were successful in the grant approval for a sandbagging machine that the county will have in-county. Public Works is going to maintain it, purchase it, and house it for us. It is a resource available to any of the lower tier municipalities. There also is one in Toronto through Global Medic that we found, and we can ask and request, and they'll transfer it up here, and we can use it as long as we need. So that'll be two different avenues we can be a little bit more efficient. As well, I just want to speak on part of the grant was to have seed money for a civil defense group. So the idea is the county would help train and give some equipment for all the lower tiers to have a response group. What we're going to end up asking for is, say, a lead and 5 or 6 volunteers that you choose from your municipality. We'll train them up just like we did Public Works before. How to sandbag, how to run a site, how to do risk mitigation, how to do what are the health and safety implications, create some templates. So these are the volunteers you're going to use. This is how you do it. This is how they're covered. These are the expectations. Kind of make it all simple for you. It's not our group. It's your group. It's your, we just want to help facilitate the funds, help facilitate the success of it. That'll probably be me that ends up being the, you know, I don't know if it's the champion or the coach or the mentor. I'd love to see it come to fruition. My job as alternate CEMC, I work with the chief. My job is to be the glue, the coach, the mentor. Anything you need, any questions, Carmen can ask. I'm here to support them. I do this in the lower tier as well, so I totally understand where you're coming from. and I actually love doing this. So if you have any questions, that's all I have specifically for you, but I'm open to pretty much anything and everything other than, is it going to rain? I don't know.
Any questions for Steve? Councillor Moore.
Just curious, has anybody said anything about the snow load up north? What it's like this winter compared to here?
There is more snow load than here, but they get significantly more than us. The advantage of it being up there is it's behind all the reservoirs and all the dams, so they can somewhat manipulate how much water is coming. The entire purpose of the dam system is to hold that water until this water's gone. The fact that this water's moving in March is like awesome. It's unbelievable. That, as long as they don't get rain up north and they have to start letting that go, this will filter through, they'll maintain a level, and then that water will come behind. Hoping all goes well. I know the snow samples that I heard from the Boncha River in Algonquin Park, they're at like 40% of typical for this time of year. So that's quite low. There's supposed to be new snow samples this week for the Ottawa River, I believe, so I'll reserve judgment until we look at the map this week.
Any other questions? Good. The only one I will throw out, and just because I know we had big discussions about it last year, is when the water hits a certain level, we become worried about a lot of other conditions, like wind and wave action and stuff.
Yep.
And is that something that we can expect the Freshet to help paint that picture for us as part of that forecast? Like, do you have meteorological people that can advise on that?
Yep. So the surface water monitoring is the first one to present in every meeting, and they give the 5 to 6 day forecast of what the weather is going to be like. Whenever we get to high levels, they always say, here's your wind for the next few days. But they report on, 5 days out. That's all that's really effective. Honestly, 2 to 3 days is all that's really effective, but they try and project 5. So once a week we get hey, next week you might have winds on Wednesday. Yep. They do take it into account though. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing nothing. Thank you so much for coming today and just helping keep this fresh in our mind, especially with the spring coming.
No problem. Anytime you want, welcome to come. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Excellent. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, number 7, which is a public meeting. And I'm going to switch to my other sheet. So we will call this public meeting to order at, I can't read that clock, 1:54 p.m. The first application is a zoning amendment, D14-185 for 2450 Beachburg Road. And Planner Benzie, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Nicholson. So I'm just going to start out reading the appeal rights. If any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Whitewater region before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council of the Township of Whitewater region to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Under Section 3411 of the Planning Act, if council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 120 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. And Section 3419 of the Planning Act states that not later than 20 days after giving notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submissions at the public meeting or made a written submission to the council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. So with that, I'll provide a bit of a background on this application. I'm going to provide a background and a review of the relevant policies and regulations in the bylaw, and then I'll leave my analysis to the section of the agenda where we're going over the reports. So the application has been submitted by Derek Gruntz on behalf of Ralph Hawthorne for the lands described as Part Lot 12, Westmeath Concession 3, known municipally as 2450 Beechburg Road, and it's up there on the map now. So the property is 0.5 acres in size with 41 meters of frontage on Beechburg Road, and it currently contains a commercial building / garage out of which the business Valley Radiator has been operating. Surrounding the property to the north, south, and west are large agricultural parcels, and then just immediately east is another small undersized lot which contains a dwelling. And the applicant is seeking an amendment to the zoning bylaw to amend the existing exception zone on the property. So the property's current zoning allows an undersized lot. I believe it was zoned around the creation of the lot back in the late 70s, early 80s to permit an undersized lot with less than the regular permitted frontage. And there's also, the exception also permits the use of a garage on the property as well. And so the applicant is looking to purchase the property for his business, which is cabinet making, and that's not a permitted use in that exception bylaw. So the purpose of this bylaw would be to add that cabinet making business as an additional permitted use. Just in terms of relevant policies, so the official plan designation of this property is agriculture, and this is another one of those properties that's an existing undersized lot in the agricultural designation, and the official plan allows us to recognize these types of small lots with non-agricultural uses in our bylaw. And I also want to highlight some of the objectives of the Whitewater region policies in that we're aiming to, in these policies, encourage and strengthen the local economy and employment in the township by encouraging land use and development that complements the existing economic base and recognizes the rural areas of the township as areas for commercial and light industrial uses, provided the service and capacity is there and in place, and that land use compatibility with other non-commercial uses are considered. So this application was submitted and deemed complete prior to the passing of our brand new bylaw, and as such, the application will get reviewed under the former Westmeath provisions. So the property is zoned rural exception 4, and as I mentioned, that zone allows for an undersized property to be created, and also the use of an auto commercial garage. And so the applicant's looking to convert this structured garage into a showroom and add an addition to the structure. And the rural zone of the former bylaw allows a contractor's yard and shop, but it doesn't quite allow a showroom. So that's really what this amendment is looking to do, is add that as a permitted use. And in the new bylaw, there's a definition that kind of replaced a former one, and it's called antique furniture restoration workshop / cabinet making shop and showroom. So while this isn't an antique furniture restoration workshop, it is kind of covered in the cabinet making shop. The new definition sort of puts both of them together. And the term is defined as an establishment engaged in the refinishing and restoration of antique furniture and includes a cabinet making shop and a showroom for the storage and display of the finished product. And I did discuss this with the applicant to make sure that encompasses what he intends to do, and he agreed that would be okay. So if passed, this bylaw will add that use as an additional permitted use in the rural exception 46 zone of the new bylaw. I will just add one thing, that we did receive one letter from the neighbor, and that is attached. I did attempt to reach out to the neighbor to try and discuss this and have a better conversation about the concerns and mitigating them. Unfortunately, I was not successful in reaching out, so I'm not sure if they're here, but I just wanted to highlight that, and I will speak to those concerns when I talk about my analysis in that section of the agenda today. So thank you.
Thank you, Planner. Next, I will ask, I believe the applicant is present. So will the applicant like to speak on behalf of their application? Excellent. I'll just get you to come to the mic, please, Mr. Gruntz. Introduce yourself for YouTube, and then the floor is yours.
Hi, so I'm Derek Gruntz, owner of DG Kitchen and Bath. So what I'm looking to do is what Alex had mentioned, converted over to a showroom cabinet shop. I did speak with the owner next to the building. She says that she's happy with everything, meaning the hours I'd operate, everything from there. But yeah, she seems to be really good with everything happening. The hours aren't going to be outside of what the current owner uses, so other than that, I think she was happy. Anything else?
Oh, it's just, it's an opportunity for you to share any thoughts or anything you want to do with council or any other member of the public that might be listening. So there's no restrictions to what you... That's good then. Okay, no, it's good. And Planner Benzie highlighted everything before, so that's perfect. Thank you. Good. So next, and sorry, just Mr. Grunts, just so you, it's the public meeting portion of this discussion is to make sure that the public has an opportunity to advise council or share their thoughts with council. So part of it is you get to speak first, offer any of your insights, and then we go to the public, the greater public at large. I only noticed one person in present. Would you like to speak to this application at all? No. Excellent. Good. Next, I'll turn to the clerk and I'll ask if anything in addition to what Planner Benzie has already outlined, is there any other written public comment?
I received nothing.
Received nothing. Good. And then I'll turn it over to council. Is there any questions that council might have as a result of anything that was raised at this point, acknowledging that later on we're actually going to review it for resolution? Is there any comments, questions from members of council? Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a question regarding the, I guess, the form or the current commercial zoning versus the RU exception 46 zoning. So to me, the uses are almost the same, where right now it's considered a shop, I think a radiator and whatnot shop is what I read, versus a cabinet making shop. So is the exception really because of the showroom piece, that there'd be more public, I guess, in the building?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, that's exactly correct.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Good. We'll close off on that one, not sure. So we have a second item that as part of this public meeting. The second application for presentation is a zoning amendment, D14-196. I don't have the address, but Logan Lane. Do you have the address? Is there an address to this one? No. Okay. Oh, I see two fingers ready. Who's speaking? CAO.
Yeah, so there is currently no address because the property is vacant and does not have a dwelling on it, and they haven't applied for an address. So essentially what we have before us is a zoning bylaw amendment. It's a condition of a severance application. Mr. John Comerford applied for a severance of a waterfront property on Logan's Lane. The proposed severed property is vacant, and the retained lands, there's an existing dwelling on there. The consent authority, so our committee of adjustment, chaired by Councillor Trim, and also who sit on it, Councillor Tabbert and Councillor Olmsted, reviewed the severance application in the month of February and approved the severance subject to the condition of the zoning amendment. So the zoning amendment essentially is to allow for the rezoning of the property from extractive industrial, rather from limited service residential to limited service residential exception 7. And the purpose of that is to reduce a separation distance between the dwelling and lands zoned extractive industrial reserve. So behind, I guess, to the west of the subject lands, that property is designated extractive industrial reserve. Extractive industrial meaning there's a potential aggregate under the topsoil there that could be potential for extraction, i.e. a pit or a quarry. And these lands are generally designated as a result of an exercise by the province who have identified these areas as having the potential for extraction. And the reserve piece is because it's being reserved. It hasn't been extracted yet. There is no license for the lands directly to the west. I will note on the sketch that's before you, on the property a bit further south, there's what's called the McLaughlin Pit. So that's an existing licensed pit on the adjacent lands, which is there's current extraction operations occurring there. So when the applicant came forward in pre-consultation discussions, it was identified that this reserve and the existing pit were nearby, and that we would require that an aggregate impact assessment be submitted to support the proposed development. So that aggregate impact assessment essentially found that there would be no or very limited impacts on McLaughlin Pit, and also the future extraction of the aggregate just west of this property. So the existing dwellings in the area are already having an impact on the future extraction, and this additional lot and its development of a house will not further impact that extraction, the current and any future extraction. So staff are, and I'll speak to the recommendation, seeing I don't think there's anybody from the public nor the applicant here, so staff are supportive of the application. The property fronts on Jeffrey Lake. It's accessed by a private road. We've confirmed that private road access. They do have legal access to the subject lands. And the proponent is supportive of the other recommendations and conditions of the severance application. So staff are supportive of the reduction, and certainly looking for council's concurrence on that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, CEO. Next, I'll just double check. The applicant is not present or available on Zoom for comment?
That's correct, and we had no comments in writing, no comments or concerns.
Perfect. I'll turn it over to council. Is there any questions that you'd like to ask at this point in the meeting? None? Seeing none, my next step is to adjourn the public meeting. So again, just for those people watching, this is the portion of it where we formally accept public input before we make any decision. So we will adjourn this meeting, this public meeting, at 2:08 p.m. Good. And we'll reconvene now our regular council meeting at 2:08 p.m. Efficiency here. We're going to review your actual item in about 10 minutes, if you want to hold on. Yeah. Good. Okay. Excellent. The next item on the agenda is the mayor's address. I have a short address here. On behalf of Whitewater Region, I attended 13 meetings. Seems like 13 is the lucky number. It's been 13 consistently. I'm going to try to change that since our last council meeting. As a county councillor, I also participated in a county council meeting and a Renfrew County and District Health Unit board meeting. One of our meetings that I attended on behalf of council was with our not-for-profit event organizers, specifically the Beachburg and Cobden Fair Boards, who are also hosting an RCMP ride in June, and the WDRA/Tour to Whitewater group. These events that they organize represent about 25,000 tourists and residents that visit our community each year. So I asked if they would come in and join me in a meeting to meet members of staff, our newly appointed councillor or community services manager, and just to discuss some of the supports that the township offers these organizations, recognizing the amount of impact they have on our economy. And we also recognize that they aren't the only events. We also have many others, Borka's Spring Chicken, Festival of Small Halls. There's music in the park. There are a number of other events, but for this one, we just focused on the 4 largest events that represent almost 95% of the tourism. So our meeting focused on confirming the township's support, areas of synergy between organizations, and the introduction of our newest staff member. There is a tremendous opportunity for our greater community based on these not-for-profit events, and something that I also carried to county council and said, you know, we have not-for-profit volunteers organizing this amount of tourism in our community. It needs to be recognized. I also attended the Upper Ottawa Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Renfrew Chamber of Commerce annual general meetings these past 2 weeks. We have businesses that are members of both organizations, and not surprising to see many different Whitewater region individuals and businesses at both of these events. At both of them, the theme of the meetings had to deal specifically with staffing and recruiting employees and what strategies could take place. It was interesting to see they brought in speakers and experts to offer advice to the businesses. I also have to note that the Ottawa Valley 2024 Tourism Awards nomination portal is open. So we have an opportunity to ensure that any businesses, organizations, or individuals in our community that we might want to nominate for a tourism award, there's an opportunity to do that through the Ottawa Valley Tourism Award portal, and maybe Planner Benzie could forward that us to later, or staff could forward it to us later. The deadline is the end of this month. I also had the opportunity to participate in a delegation to the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Infrastructure, where we raised the issue of unaffordable rural and small urban water and wastewater rates. Present was myself, Mayor of Madawaska Valley, the Mayor of Renfrew, our Warden, and our MPP, plus all of our CAOs. Each of the mayors spoke to the impacts of the provincial regulations and constraints of how the province and federal funds, how the province and the federal government fund these projects. We also highlighted that we would be applying for recently announced grants to fund future water and wastewater projects, and I'm sure Manager of Public Works will get into that at a subsequent meeting. What was also interesting is our MPP pays water and wastewater rates in Madawaska Valley and spoke to it personally and urged the PA that it was something that they could discuss offline. So advocacy is working. We're seeing the issue get talked about more and more, just one more step forward. So I wanted to share that with you. Last point for today is to recognize the upcoming March 8th International Women's Day. So on International Women's Day, we celebrate the contribution of women across Ontario, some of which are on our council and on our staff, and acknowledge the work that lies ahead towards achieving full gender equality or equity. I encourage everyone to take a moment to reflect on the important achievement of women and to continue advocating for gender equity in all aspects of our daily lives. So that ends my mayor's report for today. Is there any questions or comments from council? Anything that I brought up? Good. Seeing none, move on to the next item on the agenda. Public comments. Is there any public comments, clerk, on any of the items on the agenda?
None received.
Excellent. We'll move to our reports. So the first report is 10.1, a zoning bylaw amendment. That the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve a zoning bylaw amendment affecting the severed lands in consent application D10-230 to rezone the subject property from limited service residential to limited service residential exception 7. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. And Planner Benzie?
Actually,
CAO.
Yeah, I would just reiterate, I did speak to the recommendation from staff, so this is the same application I just spoke of as part of the public meeting. So essentially, staff are supportive of the zoning bylaw amendment. The outcome of this will allow for the development of the subject lands, for which our Committee of Adjustment has approved that severance. So while we are reducing the setback to 0, it's been confirmed that there'll be minimal or negligible impacts to any of the adjacent extraction of the aggregate. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you, CAO. And Council, you heard the public input in our recent public meeting. Is there any other questions or comments that you'd like to raise for staff at this point in time? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Next item on the agenda is 10.2, another zoning bylaw amendment. The recommendation is the Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve an amendment to the RU E46 zone of the comprehensive zoning bylaw to add antique furniture restoration workshop, cabinet making workshop, and showroom as an additional permitted use. Mover to seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Moore, and Planner Benzie.
Sure, thank you. So I'll just add a little bit extra context here for the rationale. So I think looking at those two key objectives of encouraging economic development and then making sure that it is compatible with other rural uses. This is an investment in a building and an investment in a business. So, you know, certainly it meets that first objective. And then in the second one, in terms of land use compatibility, so there is an existing business there. It's been operating for, as far as I know, maybe a couple of decades. And the conversion of the garage into a workshop and showroom is not anticipated to generate any additional or further impacts than what would be experienced now. As Mr. Gruntz mentioned, that he has talked to the applicant, and I spoke with him as well about the hours of operation of the business, which will be during standard business time, not, you know, working on making cabinets, you know, 2 in the morning. And so it's understood that there will be less noise and likely less daily traffic coming to and from the site, as well as a lot of the business actually and installation takes place not at the local business but off-site at his clients. There's already an area that can be used to accommodate the required parking, and the addition that is going to be part of the development is not anticipated to worsen any visual or privacy impacts or impacts to drainage, and it'll probably enhance the visual look of the area as well. So based on that, it's staff's opinion that the proposal does not conflict the policies set out in the provincial policy statement or the official plan, and staff do recommend this zoning amendment to modify the existing exception zone on the property and permit antique furniture workshop and cabinet making shop as an additional permitted use here on the property. Thank you.
Thanks, Planner. Any comments or questions from members of council? Councillor Trim.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thanks. As mover, I think I can speak on behalf of all council that this is great news that a business is going to continue in this area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Moore, you're the seconder. Any additional comments from anyone else? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. There we go. Good. You're free to step out now. You can stay and listen if you wish.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Excellent. Next item on the agenda, 10.3, Wren Subdivision Phase 2, Part Lot Control Extension. The recommendation is that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region pass a bylaw, being an extension bylaw for the designation of lands not subject to part lot control for lots 18 to 23 of Plan 49M106, Bamagilia Street, Wren Subdivision Phase 2. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. And, CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So Bamagilia, correct. You said it properly. So essentially what we have before us is a bylaw to extend part law control. I say extend as in council has already authorized part law control. Part law control has an expiry date. We are nearing that expiry date, and the units that are part of that part law control have not yet been transferred or sold. So the lawyer on behalf of Bonashir Excavating has requested that we extend part law control until March 1st, 2027. Part law control is not the easiest thing to explain, but I will make my best efforts to do this. Essentially, when you have a subdivision, through the subdivision approval process, the township approves lots and blocks. Lots, individual lots, are intended for individual units, single-family homes. And when you create blocks, they're intended typically for multiple units. So a semi-detached would be located on a block, and then you would do part lot control to split it down the shared wall that separates the two units, and then the part lot control would allow you to divide that block into two pieces. Similarly, if you have a row house that is a fourplex, all side by each, you would get a permit to build the 4 units on one block, one lot, one block. And then in order to sell each of the 4 units, you would do part lot control to divide each unit on their shared wall. And then you could actually formally transfer each unit separately as freehold lots units. So in the case of phase 2 of Wren subdivision, they were all single-family homes. There were 27 lots, and they were all intended for single-family homes. So the lots were created in 2019, and as time progressed after 2019, it was realized that there was an interest and a marketability for semi-detached units. That's one next to the other, not a duplex, one above, a semi, one next to the other. So BEI at that time converted 8 lots to create 6 semi-detached units on those 8 blocks. So basically they've reconfigured a portion of the subdivision to explain it in easy terms. In order for them to do that, they required council approval through what's called part lot control approval. So that was authorized by council back in April 2021. There's a 36-month expiry, which would bring us to April 2024, and they're requesting that we extend that to 2027 March so that they could finish off the development and sell those units. So essentially, as I understand it, all except for maybe 1 have been built on, or maybe 2 have been built on. So they still have some work to do, so it might take a couple years before they get there, so they've asked for that extension. Glad to explain part lot control over an hour, maybe at a different meeting, but I'll try my best to answer any questions relating to it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, CAO. Movers, Councillor Trim.
Yes, the economy's changed, and so the business plan has to change too, and I think we should support that by granting this extension. I'm hoping the rest of the council feel the same way. And just as a side note, Bamigillia is a type of poplar or aspen that grows in our area. So it's named after a tree, Mr. Mayor.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you. Councillor Olmsted, you're the seconder. Any comments?
Yeah, I have no comments, thank you. Bamigilli is a tree.
I'm learning something every day. Any questions from the other 2 members of council that are present? No. I do have I understand, it's an easy one. The timeline, why do we set expiry dates on something like this? Why is it necessary for it to come back to council?
Yeah, so the Planning Act does require us to set a time limit. Past practice in my career has been 36 months. That is typically what would be needed to develop and transfer the lots. So that's what we had gone with originally, but we are required to set a time limit. In our case, past practice was 36 months.
And the time limit that's being, that we're establishing as part of this resolution has been requested specifically by the builder?
That's correct, by the lawyer on behalf of the applicant. Yes.
Perfect.
Thanks.
So we're in support of what they are asking for. Good. Any other questions? Call for a vote. All those in favor? It's carried. See, it was an easy question, CAO. Next item, 10.4, Village and Hamlet Main Street banners. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the seasonal design of the Village and Hamlet Main Street banners. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Tabbert and Planner Benzie.
Okay, so back in 2022, the township was successful in receiving a wayfinding signage grant, and this program was designed to help municipalities create new or enhance tourism experience and products to attract local and domestic visitors. And so over the past couple years, this funding has been used for the design and installation of the wayfinding signage that you can see as you're driving across the township and key intersections of the village. So these most of these were installed in 2023, and there are a few that are still left to be constructed, and we're aiming to do that this year. Some money from the grant was also set aside for the design of seasonal banners, and these will need to be purchased and installed throughout the villages and hamlets in our township as well. So in 2020 and 2021, in my understanding, this was before I joined, but I guess there had been some previous banners that I think got to the end of their life, and so this is going to be new banners, and there's two different versions, one for summer and spring, and then one for the fall and the winter. So staff recognize that the reintroduction of banners really helps to create cohesiveness and just makes our communities look at their best. Implementing banners and wayfinding signage was also part of the township's business retention and expansion project. So the two season designs are intended to cover local activities and other assets that we have here in Whitewater region, and it's hoped that because we only have two, this will reduce some operating costs as opposed to having multiple versions that we would put up and down throughout the year. So the 2024 operating budget does include some funds to support streetscaping and the signage. So we anticipate that the budget could be used to start the procurement of these banners, but that we'll likely have to allocate more of the 2025 budget to finish installing them across the township. But this year we'd like to get a start of that. So in terms of next steps, we will obtain quotes for the purchase and installation of them, and we'll also start to map their location. And with that, I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and I'll go to the mover first. Councillor Trim, any comments or questions?
No, I don't really have any questions, but a comment that I really like the banners. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, I think the banners are very nice. I love the color of them. I do have two concerns. The first one is with the other one that says Discover. While I understand farming is a huge part of our municipality, I have a concern that if you're telling people to discover farms, they may get the impression that they can just go and visit the farms and say, hey, I want to discover what you're doing. So I'd like to, I don't want to remove it because it is part of our municipality, but it's at the very top, it's very prominent, and it makes me a little nervous that people might get that sort of impression that we want them to go visit farms. The other thing is on the, on that same one is even if you were to do that, there's nobody walking. We have wonderful walking trails here. We have Beachburg, we have Foresters Falls, the trail that we just purchased, and there's nothing to promote walking. I like the canoe, although Whitewater is a big thing. I mean, actually I saw kayakers today heading to the Ottawa River. For the winter one, I think it's great. I like it, but again, snowmobiling is a huge thing here when we have snow, and I think we could probably just put some snowmobiles in the background there going through the hills. But other than that, the color, I just love it, just pops. So thank you for your work on this, and I'll leave it at that.
Good. We'll collect any other input from any other member of council. No? Is it possible for us to amend those if that's something we desire?
Yeah, we could certainly reach out to the firm that was hired to do the design and just add those, a person walking perhaps, and then a snowmobile, if you will, to the design. Yes?
Good. It doesn't change the resolution in front of us, but I'll just look around. Is there any member of council that objects to modifications to the proposed plan that Councillor Tabbert has added input to? Councillor Trim?
I really think if a walker could be put in there and a snowmobiler would be great. I wouldn't change the farming one. I don't get I don't know why anybody would get that impression. And we got to be careful. You know, there's there's side-by-sides and four-wheelers and all kinds of things. I don't want to clutter it up too much, but those two suggestions I could support. Thank you.
Any other feedback? Good, so we'll go with the two suggestions. Councillor Tabbert, unless you have anything you want to rebut? Nope, so we'll go with the two suggestions that have a general consensus from council. Good? If there's no other questions, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. The next item, and we will pause for a break, but we're going to try to get through this next one. Tender for a 3/4 ton crew cab truck. Recommendations, the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the award of a tender 2024-02 to Finch Chevrolet Cadillac Buick GMC Limited for the purchase of a 2024 Chevy Silverado 2500 WT four-wheel drive at a cost of $69,836.30, inclusive of non-refundable HST. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Trim. And Manager of Public Works?
Yes, thank you. Staff put a tender on the website, and also our tender process, which is Dingo, sorry. 9 companies did pick up the tender package, with the township receiving 4 tenders, which closed on February 21st. Following the closing, a public tender was held in the council chambers. It was staff analyzing all the bids, and staff found that the lowest bid did not meet 4 of the requirements, and staff are recommending to proceed with the second lowest bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any comments? As the mover?
No, just curious, anticipation of delivery. Did that say that? I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, yeah, so the vehicle is in stock, and it would be delivered in the next couple of weeks.
And is that in, we'll be able to keep everything in service then for the summer when we have our students, et cetera, so we'll have enough vehicles?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And Councillor Trim, the seconder?
A couple of things. The truck that it's replacing, is it going to be part of the auction, the sale that's upcoming?
It will be, yes. So once the new truck arrives, we'll have the old truck placed on Gov Deals.
Oh, okay. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, there's 2 different prices here. Is this because of HST? One says it's inclusive of, and I thought, okay, the HST is in there, and then, but maybe Curtis, you could explain this to me, and I'll try to remember it from now on.
Please, Treasurer.
Sure. So the inclusive of HST, there's a non-refundable portion of our HST of the 13% that we actually expense every year. So we get to take 11.24% of that 13% and recover that from the government. The 1.73% of the remaining portion, we have to expense. It's not like, say, a farm where you get 100% of your HST back. So that's where that difference in price comes from. The one price he's got listed there, including HST, is the full 13%. The part that we're approving, council's approving tonight, includes the small portion that we can't recover from the government, and remains our expense.
I'll try to remember that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
That's good. Any other questions from any member of council? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. And with that, we'll just take a short recess. And welcome back to the Township of Whitewater Region regular council meeting for Wednesday, March 6th. We'll reconvene here at 2:43 p.m. And we're on item 10.6 for a tender of pavement markings. The recommendation before us is that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve the award of tender 2024-05 pavement markings to A1 Carp Pavement Marking Limited at a cost of $32,000.98, inclusive of non-refundable HST. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Morse, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. And I'll turn it over to Manager Public Works.
Yeah, thank you. Tender for the pavement markings was released and closed on February 21st. Staff decided not to go with the county's municipal supply and services tender. This was similar as in 2023, if you recall. And staff did include multiple items, which include center line and edge line, including stop bars and also parking lines for our municipal facilities. Sorry. Seven companies did pick up the tender, and only 2 tenders picked up. One advantage also going out with our own tender is that the actual painting will be completed by July 1st. And sorry, and the 2024 operating budget included $30,000 expense for line painting, which in this tender does including, I said before, does including some cost that will be billed, that will be invoiced to the actual facilities, which include on this building here and also the Cobden and Westmeath marinas. Sorry, if you recall, council did in the budget did have a la carte option to include additional line painting. This year, staff there's a shortage of line painting, about 30 kilometers, which we are doing 90 kilometers of center line painting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mover first, Councillor Moore. Seconder was Councillor Olmsted.
I have nothing, thank you.
Any other questions from the last 2 remaining members of council? No, I have a question while there. So I see we're paying 32. I imagine our neighboring municipalities are paying 20, 30. At what point in time do we not just hire 2 guys and hire out our painting to the other municipalities? Have we thought about an opportunity that, especially with the leg or?
Yeah, so the county Renfrew does do their own stop bar, and township staff have inquired what the cost would be for that. The big challenge is the highway markings, which is center line markings, which requires a dedicated machine, but it's something that staff can bring up with the county Renfrew and other partners in the future.
May if it makes sense financially. Good. I see like an Olmsted's line painting business materializing here. Okay. I just see an opportunity there, and we have to. If there's a way we can save money, this may be it, especially if we can partner. Is that any other questions from Councillor Tram or Councillor Tabbert after? Good. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. The next item, 2023 Statement of Council Remuneration. The recommendation is that the Council of Township Whitewater Region receive the 2023 Statement of Council Remuneration and expenses paid prepared by the Treasurer dated February 29th, 2024. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Tabbert, Councillor Olmsted. And this goes to the Treasurer.
Thank you. So this is a report that's legislated through the Municipal Act that has to be provided by myself before March 31st of each calendar year for the prior calendar year's remuneration or expenses paid. So the attached chart of remuneration that was paid in 2023 includes honorarium. This is the amount payable to the mayor, deputy mayor, and councillors for the performance of their duties on municipal council. The benefits column is the amounts that includes Canada Pension Plan and employer health tax, statutory contributions paid by the township, expenses. So that's per the bylaw that was passed at the start of council term. 2203-1458. It's the council education miscellaneous expense policy. So it includes miscellaneous expenses, expenses related to conferences, conventions, or any other municipal business function, and then the mileage for travel from the elected official's home or the municipal office to designated destination for all approved meetings and committee meetings. And finally is donations. This is the amount payable to the local organizations as a donation at the discretion of the elected officials. I just want to point out, per the chart, the honorarium portion is the only actual portion that is paid to councillors. The other portions, the expenses and the donations, those are paid out to other facilities. So the expenses are the activities like the conferences and that type of thing that the councillors go to for education purposes and voicing the concerns of the township. And then the donations are, again, paid out to other organizations. And that's it. Is there any questions?
Good. Councillor Tavert, the mover, any questions?
Just out of curiosity, what was the budget and did we go over or under it?
Currently, it was under budget.
Thank you.
Good. Councillor Olmsted, seconder. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you, Treasurer. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Next item, seasonal alternative hours of operation, extending the pilot program. Recommendation that the Council of Township Whitewater Region approve an extended pilot program for seasonal alternative hours of operations from May 19th to October 5th, 2024. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Trim and Councillor Moore. And this goes to the CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So what we have before council here is a proposal to provide for alternative hours of operation, also termed as summer hours, if you will. What senior management team is proposing is that we extend the pilot program for the 2022-2024 summer season. So back in June 2023, the present council here, they authorized a pilot program over 14 weeks from July to October. So that was the first time I think that Whitewater Region Township had allowed for what we will call alternative hours of operation. That was sort of led by the employees within the Department of Public Works to try to work those 4 10-hour shifts. As a result of that, as a result of conversations in 2023, we were able to extend alternative hours of operations to other departments as well, including the office staff here, without affecting our regular hours of operation. The office hours did not change. We remained open from 8:30 till 4 Monday to Friday. The department that did not really get to enjoy this opportunity was likely the Parks and Recreation Department. And the Environmental Services Department. So we are hopeful that if this is approved tonight, we will try to extend with our new manager and new staff within the Environmental Services to try to extend this opportunity to other departments as well. So what we have before council is a recommendation from the senior management team to provide for an extended pilot program from May till October 2024. So essentially extending last year's program from 14 weeks to 20 weeks. What we found as a result of last year is that we didn't see any increase in operational hours. So overtime in excess of when we compared to 2022. So we took employees' hours from 2022 over that period in comparison to 2023, and there were no additional, no significant increases in overtime. So our regular, our managers who attend council meetings, that overtime did exist, but it wasn't any greater than it had been the previous year. As for Public Works, we didn't see any increase because they were not available on Fridays and the like. So in addition to that, While we did not have departmental work plans in 2023, we did have a budget. So that budget shaped our operations, our projects, our programs. And I could confirm that we certainly met the proposals as part of 2023 as part of the approval of the budget and achieving those projects and that work. And then we've also, so we're confident that the productivity wasn't greatly impacted as a result of the summer hours. Lastly, we conducted in the fall of last year an employee engagement survey. Had a variety of questions, one of which was around flexible hours, hours of operation, and the results of that showed that there was a demonstration that staff supported the continued program into 2024 and beyond if possible. So staff are supportive of this. If it is approved, we will be able to reassess the operational feasibility, so any additional operational expenses. We'll also be able to gauge the impact against our approved departmental work plans. Now that we have departmental work plans that have been approved by council, we'll be able to gauge the productivity with respect to that. And then we'll also conclude the program with another specific survey for the employees to make sure that to understand any challenges they may have had with the program. So we're confident that we can move forward with this. The implementation of it will be through each supervisor manager. So essentially I will email staff if it's approved tomorrow, and we have a bit of a spreadsheet that they will submit for approval, their proposed alternative hours. Essentially in the office here, people would team up, 2 people. One would work 4 days, Monday to Friday, and alternatively Monday to Thursday, Tuesday to Friday, and they'd switch over weeks, so they'd have extended weekends. But it seemed to work well last year, and we're hopeful we can move forward with this as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks, CAO. And Councillor Trim, any comments as the mover?
Yes, I'm very happy to move this and support it strongly. I think it is a very great retention tool to be in our retention toolkit, and I did not hear any negative comments from the public. And so, yes, I'm very happy to move this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Moore, the seconder?
I'm totally in support. I've heard nothing negative about how the summer went last year, so I'm looking forward to collecting data after this full summer and see where we ranged from last year and see how to proceed. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments? Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, I'm in full support of the program as well. Just a question, is this written in any contract per se?
So the hours of operation for each division is within our pay and benefits policy. So it does specify 8:30 to 4, 7 to 3:30 for the public works garages, but it does allow for the CAO and the managers to alter those hours of operation. I think the key thing here is we don't want to impact the available service to the public. So the office space, it's important, I think, that it stays open from 8:30 till 4, and that if there's an emergency, we can get employees out. But this alternative hours is not in individual contracts. It's part of one of our policies that applies to all staff.
Right. Thank you. And second question. Do you think there's any merit to reviewing, so once the pilot, I guess, is over, do you think there's any merit to reviewing the program annually?
Yeah, I would think that subject to success, I would into 2025 recommend changes to the policy to have this ongoing without having to come back to council on an annual basis. We're going to look at, is there some trade-offs? So is there opportunities to have the office open, later hours perhaps? But we need to try it some more, I think. So yes, certainly I'm, through the senior management team, willing to consider a permanent change. But I think we still need a bit more data before we could do that.
So for 2024, it's still under a pilot project then?
Correct, yes.
Great, thank you.
Good. Any other questions? No, I'll just make a comment to say what's important here is that the level of service to the community doesn't change. Yet we're able to offer our employees essentially more options and thus hopefully retain them longer. So I think it's a great initiative that does both two things very well. With that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's carried. Next item, routine disclosure policy amendment, which the recommendation is the Council, Township Whitewater Region, approve amendments to the routine disclosure policy. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Clerk? Yeah.
So in March of 2023, Council passed our first routine disclosure policy. During the past year, so the policies helped staff identify records and information that can be disclosed to the public, and how. Over the last year, though, over the past year, we've had quite a few building permit requests. So staff thought that it might be important to maybe more clearly define and identify a better breakdown for how or who can disclose the information. So attached is the schedule with the new not more laid out outline for staff. So if there's any questions.
Thank you, Clerk. And I'll go to Councillor Moore. Any comments or questions?
This will be just continue to stay in service, or is this brand new with a new date with changes?
Is it amended or is it
The policy is just amended.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Tabbert is the seconder. Any other comments or questions on this new amendment to the policy? Good. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Clerk. Next item is Library Board appointments. The recommendation of the Council of the Township Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to appoint a new member to the Whitewater Region Public Library Board. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Moore. And back to the clerk.
We've seen these quite a few times. So we received a letter and resume from Brenda Lance to become a member of the Library Board. Ms. Lance is a resident of Cobden and is interested in being involved in the community and becoming a board member. A bylaw is provided later in the meeting for approval. The bylaw will also clean up any members who have since stepped down. So if there's any questions,
Thank you, Clerk. Any questions from the mover? The seconder? Any other questions from other members? Seeing none, I will just publicly acknowledge the dedication of those that have volunteered for the Library Board. We need the public to perform such functions in order to have a great library, libraries here in Whitewater Region. So thank you to those that have served and who are volunteering to serve. So with that, we will call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you, Clerk. Next item is 10.11, the Municipal Emergency Response Plan amendments. Recommendation of the Council of Township Whitewater Region approve amendments to the Emergency Response Plan, the Flood Readiness Plan, and the Municipal Emergency Program Committee Terms of Reference. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Trim. Coming back to the clerk.
Okay. So the Municipal Emergency Program Committee met in 2023. The Program Committee is the committee that goes over the Emergency Readiness Plan. And after a review of the plan and annexes and the terms of reference, the committee has made a few changes to better reflect and manage emergencies. Some of these changes were to the flooding plan, including the addition of ORPG as noted in Steve Osipenko's PowerPoint presentation. They're now going to be a monitoring source for the flooding and clarifying and cleaning up words. Oh, geez, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't want to hear that. Clarifying and cleaning up wording and also identifying landfill triggers and social media updates. The emergency readiness plan was also reviewed, and it was determined that the EOC Center, so that's the Emergency Operations Center, was changed to reflect the municipal garage and as the alternative EOC location. And member appointments were changed to reflect their titles as opposed to their names. So before it was made as the employee's name, this time it's now changed to their actual job title. And as per a motion provided by Councillor Trim in March of 2023, the committee also discussed the generator for the alternative emergency operations center. The committee did determine that a mobile unit would be the best. This allowing other departments to either use it, and we would be able to locate it depending on where the emergency is happening or has happened. We did apply for the emergency preparedness grant from the province, and we did receive a letter February 27th saying that we were not successful in that grant. So the program committee is going to be meeting next week, and we will discuss other options at that time. And just a little cleanup item that Jeff Warren, the field officer from EMO, has helped me review the 2023 compliance report. He did notice that our terms of reference did not actually appoint a chair. It was actually noted that it was a lead, not a chair. He just asked us to do a housekeeping item for that. He did say that he was going to recommend to the province that we are in compliance, so just for the following year to clean that up. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you, Clerk. Councillor Tabbert, mover, any comments?
I have nothing.
It's good. Councillor Trim, seconder?
No, I'm happy to see the topic of the generator there, and I'm interested to know what steps we'll be taking to actually get one, whether putting the monies in the budget or how that will happen. So I'm still interested in that piece, but progress is being made on it, and I'm happy.
Good. I see Councillor Tabbert, our chair for the committee, taking a note. I'm sure it will be discussed at our upcoming meeting. Thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, Councillor Moore.
Just wondering, when the clerk mentioned the grant process was not successful, was that a one-time grant, or do they have grants out for CEMCs every year, or how is this going to proceed?
I'm thinking this was a one-time grant. This is the exact same grant that the County of Renfrew applied for, and they got the sandbagging equipment. So with that being said, I mean, every year there may be something new that we will just keep our eye out and see if there's anything else available.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one request, and I can't remember which one it was. I think the emergency response plan. In that document, it refers to the wards, and it's the wards that I assume existed prior to us changing our electoral to at-large. I don't know if those wards have a requirement for being in the emergency response plan. What I'd like to ask is that it get pushed back to committee to review that aspect, and if necessary, if it's not required, let's remove it and just reflect the current system that we have in place. Do I need a motion to make that effect?
If I may.
Yeah.
So I don't believe we need a motion, because part of the job of the program committee is to go through our plans to reevaluate or look to see if there's any errors or omissions or cleaning it up. So that can be part of that process.
And did that, see your hand go up there, Councillor Trim?
Just to confirm, yes, when I went through it, the wards indicated reflect the electoral wards of the past.
Okay. So good. So Councillor Tabbert will take that on as a review point for the next meeting. Excellent. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Good. Next item on the agenda is a notice of motion that was provided from Councillor Bell. Now, unfortunately, Councillor Bell has his full-time employment has called him away for today, so he's unable to move his notice of motion, yet it is on the agenda. So what I'd like to request from the floor is a motion that would defer or table, as the clerk will dictate. Sorry? Yeah?
Defer it, please.
Defer it until,
Do we want to defer to the next meeting, the March 20th, 2024 meeting?
at which time Councillor Bell will be back in location. Can I get a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. I don't believe there's any discussion allowed for a motion such as this, so we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. The item is deferred until March 21st. Next item on the agenda, sorry.
20th, I'm sorry, it was the 20th. I do have 20th.
Good, thank you for the correction. I'm in the wrong month. Let it stand to be changed to March 20th. Thank you. We're not meeting on the 21st. Good. I'll move, sorry, just before we leave notices of motion, is there any notices that the members present would like to place on the table? Okay, no new notices of motions received. Next item on the agenda is 12 is correspondence. There is one item that requires direction, and we saw similar items in our last correspondence. They have now represented themselves. Tax credit for volunteer firefighters. The recommendation before us is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receive the item for information purposes. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Moore. Discussion.
So, yes. Councillor Tabbert may want to lead, but is Jonathan still online? Okay, so the fire chief is also here.
Good, so we'll let the staff lead speak to. Good, so fire chief, if you're there.
Good afternoon, I'm here. Unfortunately, my video is not working right now.
No problem.
So essentially, I'm a member of Parliament put forth a private member's bill recommending an adjustment to the income tax code, I believe, allowing up to $10,000 be tax-free for volunteer firefighters. At this point, is about all we can do is support it. There is an online petition, but it is with the federal government right now as to whether they're going to approve that or not. But it would be beneficial to some of our firefighters, just depending what tax or the amount of hours they work each year. Thank you.
Good, so I'm going to just confirm you're supporting this proposal.
I am supporting this proposal. It won't have an effect on all of our firefighters, but potentially some of them, and moving forward, it will be beneficial.
Excellent, thank you, Fire Chief. Good, I'll go back to my mover, which is Councillor Tabbert. Any comments or questions that you'd like to make?
Yes, just for clarification, this was at our last council meeting, but I hadn't had a chance to talk to our chief about it, whether or not our firefighters would need support in this way. And while it won't affect most of our firefighters, there are some who could benefit from this bill that's coming forward. So I asked the clerk to put it back on the table so that we could, I could have a motion to support the resolution regarding the tax credit for our volunteer firefighters.
Yeah, I'm fully in support of this, and I know there are some firefighters out there who are very dedicated and don't miss any calls, and that's where they get into the higher bracket than some others who may be working during the daytime and such things. So I'm totally in favor of this, and I think we should support it.
I see no other questions, so I'm looking back at Councillor Tabbert. You've indicated you'd like to possibly change the recommendation that's on the floor. You would like to amend that recommendation?
I'd like to amend it that we support and endorse the resolution within the correspondence received regarding the tax credit for volunteer firefighter volunteers.
Clerk?
If all in favor, we just do a friendly amendment.
Good, and I'm getting confirmation of the friendly amendment from the seconder. Any subsequent questions or comments from members of the floor? No? Then we'll call for a vote for the amendment. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you, and thanks, Fire Chief, for hanging on for that discussion. Saving somebody's life. Okay, next item under correspondence, there's two information items. The first one is the emergency service report from the County of Renfrew, and I will speak to that one. Steve Osipenko mentioned it in his presentation earlier today, the approval of the sandbag filling machine, as well as the generation of a civil response force, not necessarily defense, but response force. There is going to be some opportunity for the municipalities to participate. As you said, they will fund up to 6 volunteers for the training and the equipment and all that kind of thing. Very supportive of this. In fact, this initiative is as a result of our experience of flooding last year. So what I'd like to suggest is that this item gets pushed down to our Emergency Services Committee, and it will be reviewed at that committee for recommendations and how council would like to would approach that. Is that do I just need general concurrence?
So I already have this as an agenda item on the program committee because as CMC it was sent to me separately, so I'm not I don't feel that you have to do anything. It's already something that's going to be discussed.
Perfect. Is there any other comments from members of council on that item? Councillor Moore?
Just a comment. Is this time sensitive? Is this something that needs to be handled soon, or that's only my question?
Did you nod? Yes. Okay.
I was kind of saying no.
We'll confirm. We'll have to come back to you on that. But I think the committee's scheduled for the next, this week, so it's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah, so you don't have to confirm to me, you can confirm to the councillor in charge there.
It's perfect. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to move to the next item, information item, which is the county council summary. Is provided in there, and I have a hard copy that was printed off for me. I just wanted to highlight, I'm looking through here. The first one is the county is doing economic development strategic plan, and as part of that strategic plan, I asked them to consider our non-profit tourism event organizers, such as the ones we spoke about earlier in the council meeting, and they are going to be included as part of their implementation plan. They call it community, I'm looking at the CAO, I can't remember what it's called, community tourism? Yeah, something to that effect, but it will include not just business operators that generate tourism, but also not-for-profit events. Good. Sorry, I'm just looking for this last one. We'll just pause for a moment. Yes, okay. The other one is the County of Renfrew's Affordable Housing Summit. So I think I mentioned this in a previous mayor's address, but there's going to be, this summit will take place on April 4th at the Mattaway, the new Mattaway building in Renfrew. And it'll be an opportunity for folks to be able to speak directly with organizations from real estate, Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Infrastructure Ontario. So it'll be an opportunity for developers from the community, the greater community, to see what might be available for them for affordable housing initiatives. Now, I know we have one potential person or developer interested in our community, and our planner And planner is looking at making sure that they're made aware of this. But if there is any other opportunity or any other organization within the community that you want to share this information with, I'll make sure that the flyer is available for you, and it'll probably be out on social media, etc. That's good. Any comments or questions to that? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. And I'm going to start with Councillor Tabbert.
Thank you. I have a few announcements to make. The first concerns our firefighters. On January 24th, I think it was the 24th, yes, we, Chief Jonathan McLaren and the Deputy Chief Stacy Levesque and Corey McKenzie presented several service awards to some of our firefighters and promotions. So I want to thank them for doing that. Our firefighters are well deserving of being recognized each year. At that same celebration, there were 4 bravery awards received by or presented to Shireen Yvonne Grant and her husband Josh. Oh, sorry, that was Sherry Lignon Grant, and then Chris and Shireen Penner for their rescue or helping to rescue people from a burning home in an early morning fire in May of last year. So I think it's great that we do that. Also, the township is hosting a series of public information centers for our adaptive reuse of community centers. As part of our commitment to enhancing recreational facilities and services, we are seeking input on future users for 2 existing spaces in the township. The purpose of these public information centers is to involve our community in shaping the future of our repurposed facilities. Your input is crucial to ensuring the transformed spaces reflect the community's needs. Each session will provide information on the project and opportunities to provide a collaborative feedback on potential uses for the spaces. You are invited to participate in any or all of the following public information centers. The first one is on Wednesday, March 13th, and it's virtual from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The second one and the third are both in person. On March 18th, it's from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Cobden Whitewater office here in Cobden. And on March 19th, which is a Tuesday, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Westmeath Recreation Center. This information will be on our website and put on through social media as well as in local newspapers. And finally, my final announcement, and this was just something I saw on social media, was that Muscrat Lake is one of the top 10 fishing lakes in Ontario, which surprised me because usually I see people say that there aren't good fish here, but obviously there must be because we're one of the top 10 and I don't fish, so I think that's wonderful. That's all I have.
I'm going to pile on to 2 of your announcements there. Thank you, Councillor Tabbert. The second one is council received a note from our MP, Cheryl Gallant, just extending her congratulations on everything that we're doing for Muscrat Lake to make it one of the best ice fishing destinations in Canada for 2024. So recognition not only on social media, but also from our MP. I will also just highlight the recognition for the firefighters, an excellent event, an opportunity for us to really recognize not only recruits and promotions, training qualifications, but bravery, and outstanding opportunity for us to recognize 4 members of our community that physically saved the lives of their neighbors in a burning house. So thank you for articulating that. And with that, I'll move to Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, I have none, thank you. Especially after that.
Sorry, I just pressed my button and I press it again. Councillor Moore.
I just have one, and it's to announce that the Beachburg Lions Club on March 14th are having a stew lunch from 11:30 to 1 o'clock.
Good, thank you. Councillor Trim.
Yes, I have an announcement. Great news from Whitewater seniors. And Our Manager of Community Services, Stephanie, has prepared me some briefing notes, if I may refer to them, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Last time, I announced that the first Meals on Wheels, we had 16. Well, that has changed. In the last month, 280 meals have been served, and that has in the extended area. Just amazing. A little more information. That was made possible by 8 volunteers with 30 hours of volunteer time covering 700 kilometers. Okay, a frozen meal plant, also good news. 22 people are signed up for it, and this month 124 meals. I should say that for the Meals on Wheels, that's $7, and the meals are prepared right here in Cobden by Dante's, and they've had to increase staff to accommodate our needs. The frozen meals are they're reduced right now, once a week, and they're $5.50. It's a complete meal, frozen, and can be prepared. Now, we're getting feedback, Mr. Mayor, and the other council members, and so if I may take some time to just tell you some of the things that seniors and others are saying about the program. And I've got 3. For some, it may be that they are cooking just for themselves and don't bother making a nutritious meal. For others, it may be a lack of desire or skill. Others, mental health, while for some of us, it is just much needed break. For a second comment, for seniors, I consider this an essential service, knowing this valuable, vulnerable population is getting one good, nutritious meal a day should be a top priority. This cost fits everyone's budget. The benefits are invaluable. And finally, frozen meals are convenient and the meals are easy to order and pick up with delivery when needed and special delivery when possible. Seniors are very fortunate to have this program in Whitewater region. And just as a note, some of the upcoming events that the seniors, Whitewater seniors involved in, there's going to be a St. Patrick's Day celebration on March 14th at Haley United Church, which I mentioned last time. Line dancing is back in partnership with the Riverview Seniors Club. This is new. The Whitewater Seniors and the Riverview Seniors Club have really been working together to provide events, programming to seniors in our community. Seniors and Tots, a skate session, Beachburg Arena, in partnership with the Beachburg Recreation Association, another great partnership. And there's another partnership I should mention with the Riverview Musical Club to host additional drop-in music sessions for seniors. And there is going to be, and this is important, even the federal government is getting into the act. There's going to be an information session in April, and the date is to be announced, and it's going to be at the Westmeath Recreation Centre, and it's going to try to explain the new Canadian dental care plan. That is causing a lot of confusion among everybody, I think, especially seniors. And so if you know anybody that should get this information, keep alert for that date in April. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I conclude my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have one other announcement that I missed earlier. As a result, at the last County Council meeting at the end of February, County Council unanimously passed a resolution requesting the Minister of Education increase the licensed childcare space allocation for the County of Renfrew through the Canada-wide Early Learning and Child Welfare childcare system. So essentially that came as a result of our letter triggering that discussion that we brought up at the last council meeting, and a formal resolution was passed in February. So good news, we're continuing to advocate in the area of childcare for our residents. Good, that concludes announcements. Bylaws. Recommendation, be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the March 6, 2024 agenda be taken as read and passed, and that is 7 bylaws listed here. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Moore. Any questions, any final questions or comments on these 7 bylaws? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. And clerk, there's no closed session for tonight. Seeing none. And therefore we are adjourned at 3:29 p.m. Thank you.